I am reading a book that's so difficult that I don't know what to do with myself anymore.
Yeah.
I was very confident going into James Joyce's Ulysses because, as you know, I did a year-long prep of reading all the supplemental material leading up to it. By supplemental material, I mean the Odyssey and the Iliad, the Odyssey, Paradise Lost, a bunch of Shakespeare, all of Joyce's other works, every fucking thing that you could possibly need to understand this book.
It's still just lost.
Oh, God damn it. I don't remember if I mentioned this on air, but what I've resorted to, which actually started after chapter 2, and I'm over, or at least halfway through the book, if not over the halfway mark. But what I've resorted to is reading a episode summary, because they're not chapters, they're episodes, that explains the whole episode and all the things to look out for. And they're almost essays. They're like, that's like a half-hour read just reading one of these. I read those before I go into the chapter. And then I read the chapter, quote unquote. Some of them are all right. Some are not hard to read. Some are fucking ridiculous. I read the chapter, and then I listen to a 1982 radio broadcast version of it where people were acting it out. Very good. It almost helps. At least it helps know when, that guy was talking, not, or that guy, that was just his brain. Or that's another character that I don't even know, because now we got into this weird stuff where James Joyce has inserted, not the author, I forget the term for it, but it's just like a person that doesn't exist in this universe. Let's just say God. I don't know. Somebody that's narrating random bits of it, and now you get this weird outside perspective. So he went about just making a book that's as hard as possible to read.
No, is it so hard that like you can't like keep up with the story? Like, can you understand what's going on?
If I didn't read those summaries, I would have been lost more often than not. The summaries, because the language as well, and the fact that it's early 1900s Irish shit.
Yeah.
It's because it's constant puns and references and stuff, and I do find the occasional fart and dick joke pretty funny, but a lot of it, I'm like, I don't know what this means. And a lot of the slang and stuff used, I'm just like, what the fuck? I think James Joyce has the record for the most words used, too, in this book. It's like 30,000, at least 30,000 original words.
Oh, wow.
Different original, unique words. It is a tough read. I am enjoying it. It's just I keep hitting these slogs where it's like they're purposefully just to piss you off, I think. Like this one, the chapter I'm on now, I thought it was going to be one of the easier ones, but it's like a debate between two people kind of, but then there's all these other people. And one, I think I read it on here too. It's like one's supposed to be so scientific that you don't even understand, it's ridiculous, and the other one is like the opposite of that, but it's still so ridiculous you're not supposed to understand. That's the comedy. But what they didn't tell me in that little summary was that it's a bunch of people inserting blocks and blocks of text of nothing that relates to anything. And this chapter so far has had numerous instances where it's literally a page or two of just a guy listing off names. For what reason? I don't know. So that's not too enjoyable. But I'm almost done with this episode, and I'm hoping the next one goes back to something more enjoyable.
So how long does it take you to get through an episode?
It depends, because everyone is written in a completely different style. I've read some in one quick sitting. I've read some over 3 or 4 days.
Well, I'm just saying, because with you having to read the summary, then actually read it, and then listen to it, like, you know what I mean? Can you just get like one chapter or episode a day?
I could if I was more, like, when I started, because like I said, I'm over halfway, and I've only been reading this for, a week and a half or something. I could definitely have done that, but the reading's gotten so difficult that my brain keeps shutting off, so I could only read like 3 or 4 pages a day, like on some of these. Like I said, some of the episodes are actually enjoyable, and I can go through them quick. The listening's fine, because I've been listening to it in my truck at work, just like I do to my normal podcast, so I can listen to it, and that doesn't actually take away from my normal free time. And the reading, the summary things, that hasn't been a problem. It's like, it's almost like reading an extra chapter before each chapter. I don't know. So it's enjoyable, and I will be glad when I say, I read Ulysses, but I don't think that this is one I'm going to revisit anytime soon.
No.
Because I have all those books that, like, I have an illustrated version, and I have that, what the fuck, not Cambridge, some kind of Smarty Pants version, the huge book that is supposed to tell you everything you need to know about this fucking book, but I don't think I'm going to read that for quite some time.
The illustrated version might help a little bit.
I don't know. I don't know how illustrated it is. I think it's just like pictures.
A couple
like,
pages,
like paintings and stuff. Son of a bitch. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, which is supposed to be. It's not considered one of, if not the hardest book ever written for no reason.
But like, is it good though?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, because I think when James Joyce wrote this, he was saying he wants to be considered up there with Shakespeare. I could see it. Like the language. I think the problem is, it's we're over 100 years removed from this, so that's a major issue. Is how do you get It'd be hard enough if like a modern Irish writer did something like this, and I'm trying to get Irish references, let alone 120 years ago, It could definitely be something that if you learned all this shit, you would enjoy it more. This is one of those books you're supposed to reread multiple times to even get a grasp on some of the material. I don't really like reading books like that.
Yeah.
Regardless, I will not be suggesting you read this one.
No, I was not planning on it.
Yeah, I mean, I've sent you just random pictures, and usually those are easier bits. Mm-hmm. But I've sent you random pictures from the book of just like, hey, check out this page.
The only time I'd probably ever read this book is like Death will show up and he's like, once you finish this book, I will come back for you. And it's like, all right, I'll see you. And it's going to be a minute.
I don't think I'm going to go ever into Finnegan's Wake, though.
No,
because I mean that is that makes this look like a Dr. Seuss book,
and that's the same.
Yeah, just James Joyce's final book, which took him 17 years. That's the one I read on here randomly. That's just gibberish, basically.
And is that one? Is that like a bigger book, or is it just?
Yeah, it's also I think fairly girthy. Let's see, because this book is fucking 600 something pages, and I'm feeling it.
I was gonna say, do you have any ideas for your next like?
I actually wanted to run this by you.
Like big, hard, unnecessary, difficult books that you
yeah, you already know it. I discussed it. Finnegan's Wake is 628 pages. Fucking asshole. Yeah, so my next read after this is going to be The Orchard Keeper by Cormac McCarthy. That's his first book. And then that will be all of his Appalachian books. Mm-hmm. And then I'll just have to read the Westerns at some point.
Is there a lot of those?
It's a trilogy. There's the movie No Country for Old Men. I don't know what order these are. All the Pretty Horses, and I forget the other one. I'm just gonna say High Plains Drifter starring Clint Eastwood. No, what the fuck was the other one? You should know this.
Did it also get made into a movie?
I don't remember. And the other one, and then I'll have to reread Blood Meridian, and then there's Stella Maris and his fucking 2 new books right before he died. Those are heavy into physics, so I don't think I'm gonna read those. I actually pre-ordered those and they never sent them to me.
So yeah, I remember that. But so those kind of like almost like hit like Cormac McCarthy's like sci-fi books almost.
No,
if they dealt with
No, it's like an underwater welder guy.
Oh,
when I mean physics, I don't mean sci-fi. I mean real life physics. So he's just because he was really into math. Fucking dork. But then if I did read those, that'd be all McCarthy's material, but I'm the Appalachian Gothics. I'm more interested in the Westerns. I'm not a huge Western guy because it's just like gay cowboys eating pudding or whatever. What was I? Oh, so I'm gonna read that, and that's a short book, so I should probably read that in a day or two after Ulysses is after reading that shit. And then here's my conundrum. I know what you're gonna go with. I plan on rereading Moby Dick.
Yeah,
if not the next book, the book after.
I don't know why you want to do that so soon.
Just to get it out of the way while I'm still hot on the griddle. I was gonna just do Moby Dick, but then last night I rewatched It.
Oh yeah,
the 2017 It, and then I was thinking, could read it.
You could,
because that's a big book. But after reading Ulysses, I should fly the fuck through it.
Oh yeah, I would think so.
So I'm not sure if I'm gonna do that or just go to Moby Dick. But I also feel like if I don't read Moby Dick while I am in that kind of mode, I'm never gonna read Moby Dick again.
Well, I mean, why do you got to read it again though? You read it one time and you hated it.
I read it twice because I read it when I was a kid and I didn't understand much of it.
And then this last time still didn't understand too much of it.
No, it wasn't that. It's just it got really boring halfway through. Because Moby Dick, the fault with that book is that many think it's an epic voyage of seafaring folk that are fighting whales and cool shit. It's like mostly philosophy and whaling information. Yeah.
See, the whaling information is what I think would get me. Like
that's what got me.
Like the philosophy of like, me trying to catch this beast or what, you know what I mean? Like I could find that interesting, but because you were saying it was just like listing like whale facts at one point, right?
There was a chapter that's just definitions of different whales, and I don't think it was a short chapter. I was like, why am I reading this? And then
skim.
And then you learn how like spermaceti is made and just all this stuff. That I'm like, I don't think I care. I don't know. I also have the Brothers Karamazov on my shelf, but that's a big one. The problem is I don't know if I could read 2 Dostoevsky Russian novels that are depressing as fuck within 2 months. Could you imagine?
Well, I don't know. How did you feel after reading not War and Peace, right?
God, no. Crime and Punishment.
Crime and Punishment. How'd you feel after reading that?
It's one of the best books I ever read.
But I mean, like, did you feel like tired or run down after, like, you know what I mean?
It took me about a month to recover mentally from not the fatigue of reading the book, but just of getting over the themes and the thoughts of like how I could get away with murder and stuff as well. Because again, like we talked about with Native Son last week, or the week before. I think it was the week before. I was thinking I could get away with. Well, he got away with murder. It was the conscience thing, and I'm like, I don't know
if that would work on me.
Yeah, well, I don't know, because the way it's done, you would think he would have been fine with it, but then you gotta read the book. Anyway, today's episode is this will be a DBS because I actually don't have a topic really.
Okay.
So we could just discuss more stuff. But reading wise, going into the summer, I'm not feeling light reads, honestly. I'm not feeling fluff reads or genre reads. I'm just feeling hard as fuck. I don't know why.
Well, I mean, you've been kind of like that. You were like that last year, too, for the most part.
Last year, I read a lot of genre stuff. I think I read more genre stuff than hard stuff.
Are you sure? Because I thought maybe that's the year before whenever you...
That was the year before when I was doing the Ulysses build-up. And even then, I succumbed to a lot of genre stuff. Yeah, last year, I read Stephen King, and I read... caught up on all my pulp stuff. I read all that pulp shit.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I forgot about the...
It wasn't until maybe near the end of the year I was reading some harder stuff. I don't think I really read anything too challenging last year. At least not that I mean, Suttree. I read Suttree's. But I was near the end of the year, so I think that's what you're talking about. Your memory's not very...
Huh?
Your memory's not very long.
What?
Your memory.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh? What?
The memory?
You
know.
No.
What?
What?
Is there carbon monoxide pumping into here? Anyway, folks, we will check with you in just a moment with an actual episode of sophisticated stuff.
Bullshit.
Horseshit. You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me, as always, Spencer, the Dallas Dick DoorDasher Church.
Oh.
You're DoorDashing dick. Yeah. You're fucking dropping dick at people's doors. Are you going in and giving it to them, or are they just picking it up?
What it is I just, it's a new delivery. Like, I just deliver sex toys.
That's that'd be good. Private like.
I stick the thing right there on the steps. They got to come out and
So the opposite of private like.
Yeah, no, it's not in a brown bag or anything. It's if there's an on switch, I turn it on so it makes noise and vibrates and all that stuff, whistles and lights.
Excellent. Well, today, like I said, I don't really have a topic, but I do have some subjects of contention.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right.
I got my Hellbound Books sent me the edits for approval for my gay werewolf story.
Yes.
But they didn't just send me the edits for approval. They sent me the whole book with everyone's edits for approval, and I had to find mine, which is actually a task because I was in the 200 range, and they didn't have the contents page filled out yet, so I didn't know where I was. So I had to go through every fucking... Well, I mean, it was just like swiping. It's not that challenging, actually, but it took 5 minutes, maybe.
It's more annoying than anything.
Yeah, it was just a little bit of a hindrance. So, as I suspected, being the great, fantastic, amazing writer/editor that I am, I actually didn't need much. 99% of my edits were comma additions.
Okay.
And there wasn't many of them. Now, first point of contention, Spencer.
Alrighty.
Before I get into the rest of the book and some of the things, because I was reading some people's stuff. A point of contention for me was what I mentioned in stories previously edited. Though this was clearly a hired, I don't know if they're a freelance, professional editor, I'm assuming. They seemed very professional with the edits. The commas, and they didn't give me comments on the commas. They just deleted whatever added comma or, Most of them were to link independent clauses, which I'm fine with, He ran through the door and then he stabbed him in the neck. Instead of my version, which would have been he ran through the door and stabbed him in the neck, it was he ran through the door, comma, and he stabbed him in the neck. They just added the comma, which is fine. But as you know, Spencer, I write for pace.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of editors are just using Grammarly or something,
right?
Or maybe a more professional editor,
or just like
editing.
or just like standard grammar rules.
Yeah, but like those are a lot of those were, if not all those edits were the ones that I ignored purposefully. And now, but by the way, this story was not one like I wrote the story. It was pretty fun. Wrote it quickly. Did a strong editing pass, light editing pass, and maybe a quick like extra spell check or something. This was not one of those ones I was very deliberate for weeks with. And let's just say it's a fun story. Yeah, this isn't a craftsmanship in this story. It's just a fun story. It's a splatterpunk story. So it's not like something that I was like, I just approved all the edits. I just looked at them and was like, I don't give a fuck. I'm not contending any of this. But the issue with the pacing thing was, being a splatterpunk story, he ran through the door and he stabbed him in the neck. I want it fast.
Yeah.
That would be the point of it.
High tempo.
Yeah, so I felt that the addition of the commas
slowed it down
a little bit. Not enough that it really, like I said, I didn't really give a fuck. Not enough to matter, and the reader probably wouldn't notice too much. But I just think that's odd when they do that. And I could like, hey, this is here for purpose, and they'd probably just take them, out. But I'm not doing all that. I just think it's weird because you remember one of my stories got edited, and they did it without. It was one of those ones like I didn't get to approve anything. They just added commas, and it ruined the rhythm of the story because the story is written with a specific rhythm, which I noticed a couple writers in this book did that. I could tell they did that. And the editor was pissed. They were like, oh, there's way too many commas, or there's not enough commas. Like, they were complaining about it. It's like, you can't do uniform edits using fucking AI or just standard grammar rules if you don't know the purpose of the pacing and the rhythm. What I always suggest, read it out loud. My boxing story I wrote for Starlight Pulp. I still haven't heard anything from that yet, but they're still up for open submissions. But let's say I do get that back and they accepted it, but they want to add all these commas. I'm like, no, it's a boxing story. It's supposed to be fast paced. And also I wrote it to like music, so it's supposed to have a rhythm. These are things that as a writer, don't be afraid to bring up with an editor. When you get edits back, don't be like, oh no, they're not going to take my, they're going to reject my work if I bring too much of a fuss. If it's that important to you, which this story is not to me, but if it was important to me, like my
the boxing story is more important, would be more important to you.
I'd be upset if they tried to change that stuff. I would be like, hey, you can't do it. I'd rather you just not publish it personally if you're going to change these things. But again, commas, generally not a big deal other than the rhythm and the pacing. There is reason for these. And in those ones, I honestly might have not even noticed. Like if they added those, I probably wouldn't have noticed.
Like if it wasn't like highlighted or whatever.
Yeah, like if they didn't say anything and just add those comments, I probably wouldn't have noticed because like I said, I didn't reread that story 50 times like I normally do with my work. It was just a fun story. So I don't really have a problem with that. And even adding the comments, I don't really care because I might have wrote that story not even realizing that I could have added the commas. Like I might have just been thinking fast paced, and it does because like I said, a lot of those when I was reading back, it didn't even seem like those were action scenes. So it didn't matter. It wasn't like the climax of the story, which I would have fast paced because there was pages of my story that had no edit notes at all, which is fine. Here's another one. Now this one, there's two more, and that's it. There's three things: commas, which weren't even that many. This one word, which did kind of not piss me off, but it was just like, come on. And then another one, which I understand why they did it, but it confused me a little because I don't know the actual rules of it. So one, a character in dialogue has to text their friend or something. It's like, hey, let me text my friend real quick. What about that doesn't sound right in dialogue to you? I have to text my friend real quick. What word do you think they changed?
Let's.
Real.
Oh, yeah?
Let's.
Oh, yeah. You know what? That makes sense because like
let me text my friend really quick.
Yeah.
Now, here's a weird thing. One, if you did that to make it proper, it should. I would think it would be, let me text my friend really quickly.
Yeah.
Not really quick. Real quick is the way the character speaks. Again, I didn't fight it because I don't really care. But if that was one of my major works, I would be like, hey, you're changing the dialogue. If you change this in the regular narration, fine. That's a correct fix. This is a Grammarly fix.
Yeah.
This is what Grammarly would want. They would want, because they do that to me a lot, because I use real quick a lot in my works in dialogue only. Really quick is grammatically really. That's what you're supposed to use is really, not real. Characters often say in real life, and at least in around here, say real.
Yeah, I mean,
Let me do that real quick. Let me do that real fast.
Yeah, like especially, we've talked about this when you're writing dialogue. It's not always proper grammar. It's different things, and if your character's not like somebody who talks like that, they.
I'd noticed that in some edits I've gotten over the last year in different works, usually from these not bigger publishers, but like more legit publishers that actually have a team that do this. They often want to correct the grammar of dialogue. And I've actually had to mention a couple times, hey, so remember, this is dialogue. And they, oh, you're right. Yeah. And usually they're not offended. They're like, oh, yeah. Because you figure, especially if it was one person, I don't know if one person edited all these, but if they're editing 300 plus pages of stories, I would imagine they're getting burned out and they're just like looking like a lot of relying on the AI just to show them what's fucked up and go, yeah, that should be really not thinking about it. This other one, I know the rule, but it's a weird one.
Okay.
So one of my characters, again in dialogue, says something along the lines of like, hey, I like my drink a little sweet or something like that. I don't know. But the word lil, not little, lil. You know, like Lil Wayne. Lil.
Oh, okay.
Now, what I did was L-I-L apostrophe. And I know that's not correct because when you put an apostrophe when you're shortening a word, so let's say I did, he was running. Instead of running, I took off the G. The apostrophe is just replacing the G. That doesn't work with Lil because it should be little. That's T-T-L-E. So that makes it a little confusing, but that's just how I did it. So I don't really care that they changed it. But the change was L-I apostrophe L. And then they even mentioned that's like grammatically, this isn't actually correct either, but it's as close as I could do it. That's what the editor said. And I was thinking, I don't see why it really needed the change because people would read it the same, you know?
Yeah.
So you're doing it for grammar, but now with that weird comma in the middle, it's almost like little, like it makes you say it weird. So I didn't really agree with that change just on that one. If it was a different word, I would understand.
I'd say it almost kind of makes sound like you had like a hiccup in the middle.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was a strange fix. If anything, I would have just been like, just make it little. I don't give a fuck. Like that's not a big deal to me. But, you know, I like it a little sweet. It's just showing that the guy, more realistic way of speaking.
Yeah.
A lot of people, when they, at least around here again, and this is where the story is based, is in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. They don't say the complete word. And you know me, I pepper it in lightly. I don't do this heavily. So it's not like you sound like a fucking idiot that you can't understand when you read it. I do it lightly. And I'm pretty sure I've read people do lil with the apostrophe or just nothing, just L-I-L. Again, maybe just make it L-I-L, you know? So I thought that was a little bit of nitpicky choices, but again, if that's their job, whatever. I'm not contending any of that. Like I said, I just approved it all. I was like, cool. I was reading some of the other stories and goddamn blocks and blocks. Like there was even one story I read where the editor at the end was just like, hey, this shouldn't have gotten past the initial copy edits. This story is not ready. And I read some of the whole paragraphs of just like one sentence with a million commas. And I guess it's a stylistic choice, but the person was like, this person needs to relearn how to write. They were kind of harsh.
How did they make it into the collection then?
I don't know. Maybe the story was good. The only thing I can think of is the person or people who read the initial submissions aren't the editors generally. Maybe it's interns or whatever, or just people that work for the publication. And because they put out a lot of books, so they have to have a lot of people reading. So maybe they just read like actual readers do and just say, I like the story, and don't look at all the grammatical stuff. And they're just like, oh, the story's good, pass it through. And then the editor's like, fuck. And not all the stories were like that. There's only a few I saw that were, I didn't like go deep diving into it, but a lot of the stories, it was, I feel like my story was one of the most minimal of edits that I saw. Like a lot of the stories, every page at least had one or two. Some of them typos. I think I did have like a typo or two in there. Maybe I didn't. I feel like I didn't have a typo. I did. I can't remember what it was. It was like a dumb one. But it wasn't even like a misspelled word. It was I think like a word that spelled multiple ways.
Oh.
And they mean maybe multiple things. There was one fix I actually did agree with. So during the murder scene, I said something like gallons upon gallons of blood squirted, shot, whatever, out everywhere. And in the edits, they're like, the human body only holds 16 pints. So they just changed it to copious amounts of blood.
Okay.
I was like, oh, copious is a good word.
That is a
Thank
good
you.
word.
Yeah, that's a fine correction because I don't know how much fucking blood's in the body. I'm not a splatterpunk writer, obviously. So that was a fix.
I'm gonna have to remember that word.
Yeah, copious.
I'm gonna have to keep that in the old vault there.
Yeah, in the old writer's spank bank.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. I wish I could remember what the other one was because it was a word that I might have been. I know I misspelled bestial. I put bestial just for the A. That was fine. I think it was one of those ones Grammarly just like didn't mark up, or even the spell check. So maybe bestial, bestial, is a word, and I don't know. But there was one word that I wish I could remember what it was, because I think it's one I must be always misspelling. It's like a weird one, maybe an archaic one or something. I don't know. I don't fucking know, Spencer. But how do you feel about, say, you submitted to one of these which actually, fuck it, we'll do that with your pumpkin story, maybe. Hellbound Books has a lot of fucking things, and that's like I'm telling you, the book looks pretty cool. So maybe we'll look at what because they accept high. That's why I submitted to them too, is they accept high word counts.
Right.
So maybe we'll look at that. But how do you feel about, say, you got some edits back? Like, what would offend you or make you go, come on, like, edit-wise? Because obviously spelling you're not going to be mad about.
No, it's
probably not even a lot of the grammar stuff.
Yeah, because again, that's one of my weak points. I like the Grammarly stuff. I'd probably like have you like, hey, Caleb, take a look at these. These seem like like fair changes and stuff like that. I guess it would probably be in the, like you said, like the dialogue, because again, like that's one of the key things you use to to define your character and stuff, is with how they speak and what words and how they say them and stuff like that. I would probably get a little upset depending on how much like they would, like, if they would want to change certain kind of words, because like I feel like even sometimes like even if I know like the word might not exactly be the correct definition, right?
Well, we've had this discussion when we're talking about my peddler story, where it's like, I know specifically this isn't the exact definition usage of the word, but it fits the way I want the rhythm, the sound of the story, and this particular sentence to be structured. I need that word. And I could see people changing that word because, well, technically this would be a better word because it fits better. It's like, that's not what I wanted.
Right. That kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. I think mine would be more in the way that the edits are suggested. Yeah. As long as they're not like, hey, fucktard, like you're not using, use more commas or, something, as long as they're not like assholes about any kind of certain changes, I think that would be my main issue.
Well, I like the way Hellbound Books does it, and I think Mad Axe Media did this to me as well, where and again, not a lot of edits for me, but like they said a whole I think everybody's work, and then you go to yours and it has like the suggested edits and stuff, because it's always suggested, which I like. I don't like the ones that just change it or say, hey, we're changing, you don't have a say in the matter. But the suggested edits I like, because a lot of times, at least if they do it professionally, it's like, oh, I might actually learn something, because sometimes very strict grammar rules that you don't know because we're writers and not actual editors. So like, let's say the way you put ellipses, or maybe the best way to use semicolons or something. I mean, I feel like I've got that down now, but there's certain things where you might learn some tricks that you didn't know because of the edits. Like, oh, cool. Now I know that's in my bank. I can use that for other things. What would you feel if they want to, because I know in your writing, a lot of times your dialogue will use phrases that real people would use that are not grammatically correct if you did it in like the actual story.
Right.
What would you feel if one of these people went through and wanted to change those?
Again, I feel like...
Well, here's a quick one. So, and I don't think you ever use this, but for like a lot of the black population, they say mine as well, and the correct version is might as well.
Right.
But if you used that in dialogue, mine as well, I could see definitely an editor wanting to change that. Be like, no, this character, this is authentic to how they speak and where they came from. Or if we wanted to use Yinzer language, which I don't think used in this story. I thought about it because it's loosely based on the south side of Pittsburgh. Like it is the south side, but it's not, because I just didn't feel like dealing with any.
Doing all the homework
because it's a gay werewolf story. But I could definitely see people, like an editor who's not from anywhere in this area, Yinzer language, being like, God damn, this guy's fucking mentally challenged.
Well, don't you, because I haven't done that much, but haven't you had trouble with that when you're trying to do like accents?
See, but the way I do accents in a lot of stories, I think it comes across very obvious that that person has an accent. Usually it's just cutting off ends of letters, or ends of words, like letters from the ends of words and stuff like that. So that comes off authentic and it's obvious. But I'm just saying, like, you could say, like, a character says, oh, after an ice storm in Pittsburgh, oh man, watch out, it's slippy outside.
Mm-hmm.
I could see an editor being like, slippy?
Yeah.
You fucking idiot. No, it's slippery.
Yeah.
Like yins is one they would probably not change because of like yins and they would look it up.
Yeah.
I would imagine. But but like slippy is like a perfect one because that's very close to what the real word's supposed to be. And if the person is from Kansas or something, has no idea about Pittsburghese, they could very easily go, that's wrong, change it. That's fine if they suggest the change. Be like, nope, that's Pittsburgh. Like, okay. But if they don't suggest it, they just change it. Now your story's different.
Right, yeah. And then even too, because even if it's just like a where they're from accents, just some people, that's just how some people like talk.
Yeah.
Even if you're not like from Pittsburgh, like you know, they just say like people talk, they don't say the word correctly or use it in the correct way, or like you said, like cut half the word off, you know, and stuff like that. And like that's one of the best tools you have on trying to describe your character to to the reader.
Well, here's one I didn't know until the invention of podcasts and stuff like that, and just like more mainstream media being accessible on social media, and that is John, as in what Philadelphians say all the fucking time. You know, that I don't even know how they use it. JAWN, I think it is. It's like, oh, that John down the way, or something like that. They use John for all kinds of fucking things. Let me look up, make sure I'm saying that's still one.
Because I know like toilet.
No, not like Porta John. It's hold on, Philadelphia.
Because I've heard it's like, oh man, I gotta go hit the John real quick, like
No, it's not that. It's JAWN.
Oh,
it's a Philly thing. It's a Philly John. So maybe John's a replacing thing. John is a slang term in Philadelphia that can refer to a person, place, thing, or event. It's a context-dependent substitute noun that can be singular or plural. They use it for all the time. For example, you might say, "These Johns are expensive," or "Pass me that John."
Oh,
that's what they're using it for. And that's one that if you used in a story would definitely get corrected because I didn't know that until not that long ago. That was like I heard it before. I was like from rappers and stuff. I was like, oh, I didn't know it was that common. Like fucking random idiot Philadelphians are using that all the time. Because I don't even my main source of Philadelphia information is It's Always Sunny. And I don't remember them saying John on that show too much. But yeah, I've noticed on like a lot of sports shows and stuff, I'll hear people from Philly saying that, and just funny videos. So that's one I could see like editor flag. I would probably flag. What the fuck is John?
Why are you using it so much?
Yeah. So again, I'm not upset about any of those edit remarks. Like I said, they were pretty straightforward and easy, but. I'm excited. I don't know when that's coming out, but if it's in this process, it should be close. That Peasant magazine still hasn't come out, and I haven't heard. He said March 1st, but he was going to try to get it out by then, but it hasn't come out yet. Granted, that story was edited already by the Sirens people,
right? Their
team before I ever submitted the Peasant.
It should be pretty good.
Well, I already got it. It was approved and everything. But they said, oh, yeah, all edits are approved and stuff. I was like, you didn't. Because I told them in the initial email, I was like, hey, this is published and it's already edited. Like, you don't have to do anything. So I'm hoping that they didn't make any kind of changes without me knowing. I don't think they would. I think he said they let you know if there was any changes needed. But I do like that a lot of places I submit to, when I get edits, it's usually very minimal, if any. That makes me feel good because it's like I'm know what I'm doing.
Well, and also then too, you got to figure that also got to put you in good light with editors, like, and then if they see that, like, if you would submit to them or something, or they might go someplace else and you submit to wherever else they go, like, and then they might, oh, this is Caleb James. He doesn't have like he's normally like pretty
clean.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of publications will accept your work much more readily when they realize they don't have to do any major edits on it. Like if they read the story and go, damn, this is a clean story, I don't got to do much. And even if they're like, well, we got this other story, like we only got one spot left and we got a couple other stories, but they need some work. This one doesn't, even if I don't like it as much, it doesn't need any work. Laziness takes over and Caleb is in. So that's where I think my main mode of getting any kind of success is just that workhorse mentality.
Oh yeah, that
grinding away, not talent. Just the grinding away, submitting a bunch, and making sure my stories are as clean and readable as possible.
Well, like I always bring up like stories I hear from like comic book writers that from listening to podcasts of the things that they talk about, and like one of the things they talk about is like getting that chance and actually being able to write a whole issue in a month, get it out, hit your deadlines and stuff like that. A lot of times it's like you might not even be like that good or that ready yet. But like if you can hit the deadlines, you continue to get work, and then hopefully you just improve along the way. Like, you know, so it's like that. You need to, if you do the small things a lot of the times.
Well, we said before, especially in regards to comic books, like if you're an artist, you can get much more work than somebody who's way better than you as long as you hit those deadlines and are consistent. Because that's the main thing a lot of publications want, is be able to put out the work. It doesn't matter if you're a fucking Todd McFarlane level artist, if you're not submitting the work in time and it's not, and you're delaying books, they're not going to fucking want to work with you very long. If it's like, oh, our book's going to be 2 months behind because this artist can't fucking get his shit together.
Well, like just in that scenario you just said with there's one spot left in the collection, and it's like they're running close on time. Do we put in this story that might not be as good, but like you said, it's pretty
done
clean,
and ready to go?
Yeah, and we can go, or like
especially if you got a deadline looming as the publisher.
Yeah, or do we have to wait until this person gets these, get all these edits done on the better story? Yeah. So
I feel like a few of my acceptances I've gotten last year were the exact result of that, where they had a spot open and they had a looming deadline. And all the stories they got, mine was the cleanest, and it was the easiest to work with. They're like, fuck it, let's publish that one, because especially like I think that fisherman story, the one that was like 56 or 60 pages or whatever. It's like, if you can get a fucking super long story like that and you don't need to edit it really, that's a fucking gold mine for a publisher. It's like, as long as the story's somewhat decent, they're like, oh, good, I could fucking put this in here, and that's a huge chunk of the book already, and now we can just work on the ones that aren't as, that need more polishing.
Well, that's even like with my Give Me a Murder story, like, we kind of submitted that like very late into the thing, but since we you helped me go over it and stuff, I think whenever we got the thing back, like
very minimal edits.
You know what I mean? And it got in there.
Well, that's another thing, when you get minimal edits, because that was one of those ones they wanted you to do the corrections. It's like, you suggested it. Why don't you just do it then? But it was one of those.
I think it was one of those things like, hey, you could change this to this, But
it was one of those things where when they send it back to you, I think they're just happy because, unless you're really fucking stupid or something, you could do it right then. Like my approval, and I've done this multiple times now. They send me the thing, I review it, and within the hour, because they usually give a date. Like this one was March 12th. I had to approve or deny or whatever by March 12th, and I within the hour I was like, hey, it's all good to me. Everything seems to check out. And they email back. It's like, oh, thank God. Like, they just think they get so excited.
Well, that's one done.
Because I see a lot of those stories in there. They're probably like, they're going to wait weeks probably before they hear back from the person who's probably pissed off. Yeah. Because a lot of these writers are very sensitive. And if they have major edits they got to make, because a lot of people, when they submit and get accepted somewhere, they think that's it. Like, they're like, oh, good, my story got accepted. I don't have to do shit now. Fucking wrong. And that goes for if you're publishing a book, even if it's through Penguin, they're gonna keep sending you shit. They're like,
even if they're not pissed off about it, if they have a lot of edits, depending on how they write, that could take like we said, hitting the deadlines, it could take a while for them to
get to it. Yeah. So when you got a guy like me who don't gotta do that shit, and I respond very quickly. That's one thing. A lot of people like to play it cool when I don't know why they do this. I guess it's like when you're young and they used to be like, don't respond to a girl too fast. It makes you look desperate. They do that with publishers. Like a publisher sends you like the edits or an acceptance and they need you to sign the contract or something. Oh, I'll wait a day or two, or I'll wait a week, so they know I'm cool, and fuck it. I do it immediately as soon as I can. So like I sign a contract, and every time I've done that, the person is like ecstatic. So they must get a lot of people that wait and wait and wait. It's like, I sign that contract as soon as after I read it, obviously. But if I approve of the contract, I sign it and submit it that very same day. If not within the few hours, I got the email if I can. Same with edits or anything else. I do it as soon as I possibly can. And the publisher is very happy about that, always. Because it's a business and they want to put the fucking work out. They don't want to sit there and wait for fucking Johnny Cumshot to submit their fucking, or sign their stupid contract or submit their edit approvals weeks later for no reason. It's like, what are you doing that's so fucking busy? That the way I look at it, I want to get into your publication. I'm the one who wants to get paid from you. Right. Why would I fucking twiddle my thumbs and not sign this contract to get my money?
Especially if you're gonna be just like leave them on red. Like, unless it would be like,
so they know you read it.
It'd be like, at least like I can see like, hey, being like, oh, thanks, I got the email. I'm working. Whenever I get done with work at later tonight, I'll take a look at the contract and try to get it back to you as soon as possible.
Which I've done that before when it came to certain things that were formatting reviews. Just some publishers
that's going to take a little bit more time.
Some publishers do weird shit where they're like, "Hey, this is good, but we need you to format it." Sometimes they don't have a staff. Like I've worked with a few places that they don't have a staff, or they were new, or they just needed like certain fixes or whatever it was. And I was like, "Oh, this is gonna take a bit longer, but I'll email them." Like, "All right, I got it. I'll get this to you whenever." Or like I've gotten some contracts in the past where depending, sometimes it's a PDF, sometimes it's just a Google Doc, sometimes it's something else. And a lot of times though, I find I had to get like a specific app to be able to sign the fucking thing.
Oh yeah.
Or just
we had that. I had that trouble. Remember?
Yeah, like we had to go to a separate app just to put the signature in, like to write the signature, and because I have a scanner, but I'm not printing it out and scanning it and doing all this shit. Like fuck that. So it'd be like, hey, once I figure this out, I'll give it to you. And then even then, I usually like, hey, I signed everything. I think I did it correctly. Let me know if you need. So I think they always appreciate that stuff. But anyway, that was some writing talk. If you folks have any questions about publishing, I feel like we can answer some of them now. I think we're at the stage where we can at least answer some stuff. We talked to enough people anyway that know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I know people that I can ask if I don't have the answers. So go ahead and do that. You can reach out to us at DPW Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even YouTube. Spencer's OnlyFans, he is down there in Dallas, and he is door dashing dicks.
Right to your doorstep.
It's actually what it is
right to your dick step.
It's actually a private eye service. He goes door to door, and you need to know if your husband's cheating. I'm the guy to find him for you. Also, I got a dick in my pants. It's a penis joke. Not a good one. So thank you for listening. CalebJamesK.com if you want to see my publication history. I almost forgot the important bit, promoting myself.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for listening. We'll check you out next week.